Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Today let's talk about some classic folk punk albums. All right, I'm going to start off here with a really great album from 1988 by this Irish band. And a lot of people would pick their second album, but this is their third album. I think I like this one, I think, a little more than their second. This is called If I Should Fall from Grace with God from 1988. And basically, it's like Irish traditional folk music played with a punk edge and punk spirit. And on lead vocals, you have Shane MacGowan, who just passed about a year and a half ago. And this album is probably most known for the track "Fairy Tale of New York," and that featured the vocals of Shane MacGowan and the late Kirsty MacColl. So that's probably what it's most known for. And that particular song has now become, over time, sort of a standard Christmas modern day classic. So along with River by Joni Mitchell, this Fairy Tale in New York is now kind of a modern day classic Christmas song. But the songs that really throw out the energy is Turkish Song of the Damned, just very heavy song. Another one called Thousands Are Sailing, Fiesta. Again, just really good punk spirit, good time, rousing music with a good message. My favorite song in here, though, without question, is the 14th track called The Broad Majestic Shannon. Oh, it's such a great melody. I love Shane's vocals on it. And I never saw these guys live, but I had a friend who saw these guys live with Joe Strummer singing lead vocals. This was back in, I think, the mid to late 80s. And Shane wasn't on that tour singing vocals, but Joe Strummer took over for the tour. That would have been really cool. And I heard it was an awesome show. So the Pogues, if I always get this title wrong, I have to always look at the Pogues. If I Should Fall from Grace with God from 1988, a definite classic album, classic folk punk album. An album that at one time I thought of just as a one-off, but they released another album 20 years later. I'm talking about the Knitters. This came out in 1985. The title is called Poor Little Critters on the Road. This is a really cool album. A great folk punk record with obvious influences. You hear Johnny Cash in there, you hear Hank Williams, you hear Patsy Cline, but all stirred up into this new kind of energetic punk stew. So we've got basically 3/4 of the band X on this album. We've got Exene on vocals, John Doe on vocals, and he really puts out a couple of really nice, smooth vocals on this album. We've got DJ Bonebreak on drums, and we have the guitarist that would replace Billy Zoom. No, Tony Gilkinson is not on this album. We have Dave Alvin from the Blasters playing lead guitar on this particular album. And then we have on upright bass, we have Johnny Ray Bartell. So a really cool album. This was released around the time X released that album, Eight and Love Grand, in which Billy Zoom exited the band. And then I believe Tony Gilkinson, actually Dave Alvin came on for a while, then Tony Gilkinson, and then Billy Zoom came back years later. But this is a fine album. One of my favorite tracks on this album is called The Call of the Wrecking Ball, just a real hoot. We've got Trail of Time, Poor Little Critter on the Road starts it off. It sounds like it could have been recorded in the 50s at Sun Studios. And of course, but it has that punk edge, which X brings to these songs, 3/4 of X. Highly recommended. I don't know if it's still available. I think I bought this for $1. I think at Amoeba years down the line, but a fantastic record here. Poor Little Critters on the Road by the Knitters, featuring 3/4 of the band X from 1985. A guy that was in a band called Heat Miser in Portland in the early 90s. Kind of ditched that whole kind of punk scene and started playing acoustic. And that guy is Elliott Smith. This is his second release, self-titled. Came out in 1994. And so Elliott Smith, he's on the list here because even though he sings very quiet and it almost whispers sometimes, his lyrics are very biting. They're very sometimes very angry, sorrowful, sad. All fits in with that whole punk FO DIY thing. So many great songs on here. I prefer albums like Either Or, and I think EXO is really good, but this one really is a fine album as well. Some of my favorites on here: Satellite, Single File, The Biggest Lie, the last track. Needle in the Hay starts it off. Just a fine, fine album. This guy really, really was a talented guy. Unfortunately, we lost him, I think back in 2003. But he has about 5 albums, I believe, 5 or 6 albums. There's about 3 that are definitely worth hearing. This one here, the self-titled from 94. Another one from 95 called Either Or. And another one from 98, I believe, called EXO. That's a really good one. That's when I think he changed labels. This is on the Kill Rock Stars label. Really, really great stuff. If you've never heard Elliott Smith, check him out. Also, there's a really good documentary about him. I forgot what the title it was. That's out as well. Just look it up. Elliott Smith from 1994, his second album, his self-titled album. As long as we're talking about, folk punk, we might as well put in kind of the originator. It wasn't called folk punk, but this guy was an agitator and he stood up for human rights. We got to throw Woody Guthrie into the mix here. This is a sampler that I picked up. I think it was like 99 cents, which was amazing. It's a sampler from a box set that came out in about 2009, I believe, called My Dusty Road. So it's just a great sampling of some classic Woody Guthrie tunes. Like This Land Is Your Land, Talking Sailor, Rain Crow Bill, Bad Reputation, Will You Miss Me When I'm Gone, Pretty Boy Floyd. Really, really, really cool stuff. I love these old recordings. They're just so cool. So we're throwing Woody Guthrie into the mix here today. And this is called My Dusty Road Sampler. 2009? Doesn't matter. Next, we're going to throw in the second album by the Meat Puppets, Meat Puppets 2. You can maybe call this cowpunk, but there's some folk. There's definitely some folk punk going on in there. They're really kind of all over the map, the Meat Puppets. At times they kind of sound like the Dead. At other times they sound really abrasive. This album is a really good mix. This album is very influential on Kurt Cobain for the MTV Unplugged. He picked off 3 songs from this album to do. Lake of Fire, Plateau, and Oh Me, all amazing tracks, all featured on here. Some other great ones are Split Myself in Two, which starts the album off. Aurora Borealis is fantastic. New Gods. And there's like about 2 or 3 tracks on here that are instrumentals that are really, really cool. I love their next album that came out in 85. That's my favorite Meat Puppets album, Up on the Sun. That is another really good one. But this one really features that more kind of folk punk element, cow punk element. So Meat Puppets 2 from 1984 on SST Records. And as long as we're talking about Nirvana, I'm throwing them into the mix because, I mean, you call them grunge, call them alternative. They were just basically a punk band at heart with just amazing songs. So I'm going to throw in the Unplugged in New York MTV. This is a great, call it what you want, alternative, folk rock, folk punk. The punk energy is there. Kurt Cobain's voice. So, of course, you get those 3 songs with the Meat Puppets that are just absolutely stellar, I think. These particular versions on her, even more than Meat Puppets 2. I love the versions of Plateau, Oh Me, and Lake of Fire. And then, of course, you have some of the songs off Nevermind, like Come As You Are, Something in the Way, On a Plane, a couple off In Utero. And then I think the best highlights of this album are the Meat Puppets covers. All the covers, they just do splendidly. Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam, a song by the Vaselines. You got The Man Who Sold the World by Bowie. And then they end it with just the most incredible version of Leadbelly's Where Did You Sleep Last Night? With that howl of Cobain's that could wake the dead. I mean, it's just, if you never, I'm sure most of you or some of you have seen the complete performance, the video. It's just fantastic. I think this is just an absolutely flawless record. And I think Cobain really could have moved more into the folk range, maybe folk punk, folk rock, whatever. I think he had the talent to go in that direction, and it is shown all over this album. Nirvana's MTV Unplugged in New York from 93. Of course, we got to throw this one in. I won't talk about it long because I've featured it several times recently. This is the Violent Femmes, their debut. This is full-on folk punk with classics like Blisters in the Sun, Gone Daddy Gone, Add It Up. All tracks played to death on K-Rock back in the day. I love the songs that aren't as played as much. or haven't been heard as much. Prove My Love, love that track. Please Do Not Go, kind of reminds me of maybe Jonathan Richman. But yep, an absolute classic here. The Violent Femmes debut album from 82, or is it 83? 83. And then last on the list is, speaking of X, here's a fantastic unplugged X album from 95 called Unclogged, with a horrible cover. Horrible cover. I'll show you the back cover. But man, I tell you, some of the songs on here, wow, that they do off some of their classic albums. Tracks like, let's see here, White Girl is amazing, but the highlight on here from Los Angeles, the song called The Unheard Music, featuring these vibes, incredible stuff. I'm such a vibe freak anyway, and what they do to that version of The Unheard Music with the vibes and the more laid back approach is really, really amazing. If you're an X fan, you need to search this out. Again, horrible cover. It's called Unclogged, but well worth having. Some of the songs on here, See How We Are, which was like a later song that they did with Tony Gilkinson, same album title. The Have-Nots, The World's a Mess, It's in My Kiss, which is really great. I See Red is another highlight. But the Unheard Music is just well worth the price of admission. So check this album out. Great little folk punk album. And the way they rework these songs in the acoustic setting, X, just brilliant. Unclogged from X, a performance from 1995 at a Presbyterian church in San Francisco. So good stuff here. So those are just some examples. If you have any more to throw into the mix, any folk punk albums, let me know. As always, thanks for watching. And if you dig the content across the channel, press subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.